Welcome to the school committee of September 10th. My name is Pauline Croach and I am the chair of the school committee. May I please call to order the school committee and exception of the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Janella. And I'm now going to call all in favor. Steve Sordovic?
Aye.
Thank you. Tim Lepre?
Aye.
Janella?
Aye.
Pauline Croach, aye. Thank you, everybody. So please permit me to confirm all folks who are on the agenda, who are presenting, can hear me and that they are present. When I call your name, please respond by an aye or yes or here. Kelly Cooney, Director of ELL. Okay, not hearing Kelly at the moment. Samantha Kodak, an ELL teacher or ELL teacher.
I'm here.
Thank you, Samantha, welcome. And Andrea Ma from NES.
Present.
Hi, Andrea, welcome. Mandy Vassal of NHS Principal.
I'm here.
Hey, Mandy, welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
Great, thank you. Tracy Roberts, Community School Director.
Close that thing so that she's not barking at everybody who goes by.
Thank you. Hi, Tracy. And I believe later on we'll be hearing, and I'd like to put a special welcome out to Matt King, who is has been working with Dr. Hallett as her coach from the new super induction program. So it's a real pleasure to have Matt joining us this evening for the meeting. Good evening. This open meeting of Nantucket School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the Governor's Office suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows for public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, Nantucket School Committee is convening by video conference via Zoom app and has posted in the town's website how the public may join. And it's also been on our school website. And to remind folks, if you would like to participate in the public comment, we are now using the webinar Zoom application. So anyone who wishes to have a comment does need to actually sign in on the Zoom, and anybody watching through YouTube would also need to sign on through Zoom, and the link and descriptions are there on the town website as well as the school website. So I will give it some time to let people put in their comments, and this will be the only time that we will have public comment for this evening's meeting. So I see that we have several attendees, so I'm presuming they are people other than the speakers or panelists tonight. So I will wait some more. You would just put your comment in the chat area, and that should come to myself or to Jen Erickson.
Pauline, I have to go to the emergency room. I'll be back.
Okay, Tim, thank you. Hi, Kelly Cooney. Welcome. Would you just please recognize yourself and just say aye so I know you're present and can hear me?
Hi.
Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. It's great to have you here tonight. I'm not seeing any comments. Jen, are you seeing any comments coming in? I see one question coming in, and the comment really is just from Bobby Planza, wondering how the first day of school will be for the virtual students. And I would say that's probably a thought that many people are having. This is all new for us, Bobby. And thank you for tuning in to this meeting. I appreciate it. Okay, well, I'd like to move on to the presentations and discussions, please, for this evening. And I'd like to introduce, welcome first for the summer programs, Kelly Cooney, who is the director of our English language learners, and she's joined tonight with Samantha Kodak and Andrea Ma. Welcome.
Hello. I knew my dog would do that. So do I say anything or no? Or they're just going to start right away? Pauline.
I'm trying to, oh, am I unmuted? I can't, my screen went small. You can go right ahead, Kelly. That would be great.
Okay, sorry, I saw the thing come up. So this summer we ran our summer programs. So we had Summer Boost, we had Title III for English learners, we had Title I, which includes English learners and IEPs, in our extended teachers and amazing leaders. So Andrea Marr and Samantha Kodak will talk about the programs in depth. They were the ones who kind of ran the programs all summer, recruited the students, developed curriculum, tracked data, contacted parents. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to present. They did a really amazing job.
Thank you, Kelly. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, oh, how do I go next? There we go. Okay. As usual, our program ran 4 days a week. All of the programs ran 4 days a week for 5 weeks. That didn't change, but this year it was mostly virtual learning experiences. We were able to do some in-person home visits for our most significant students. This year, the special ed part of the program sponsored the social workers to come in for a few hours a week and touch base with those students who have those needs. And some of them decided that it would be in the students' best interest to do it in person. So those were some of the in-person experiences that we were able to offer this summer. And I think it all went really well. They went with social distancing, masks, and all the safety precautions. Some of our IDSC students also participated in programs like that. But aside from that, most things were virtual. All of the programs, on the left is the special ed, the Title I and the Title III for English learners. And those are our numbers for this year, which are actually up from past years, which was kind of surprising. I thought a lot of people would kind of be over the remote thing by then or need a break from it, anticipating the fall, but our enrollment was actually up. And I noticed our attendance rates were also up, which was kind of an interesting surprise. This year, we had just one more classroom teacher than usual between all the programs, and we had a significant cut in teaching assistants, which brought our budget much lower than usual. Because we were not in person, we didn't need the teaching assistants, so we kept teaching assistants just for our most critical students that needed that extra support. We also were able to add, between the two programs, we each took half of a music teacher. We had Monique Lafreniere, who unfortunately has left the district, but we got one last summer out of her, and she did a really great job. I'm sure Samantha will talk about that when she talks about Elle. And then Samantha and I split the coordinator positions. She took care of the L piece and I took care of the Title I and the extended school year special ed program. And we split those because they're two totally different philosophies and different types of programs. And I'm sure Tracy will talk more about the Boost program. Big reduction this year, but which could be expected. Cost of the programs, you can see the ESY program is the most expensive. Those are our most significant students. We have lots of therapies and reading specialists and all of those extra positions in there. And that's why there are so many of those. So this is just an overall of all of the programs. I think even Boost is on here somewhere. Maybe it's not, but so this is just an overview of all of the numbers, how many sections we had. And you can see the EL, that stands for the English Learners, which is overseen by Kelly Cooney and Samantha Kodak. So those were broken up in different ways. So that's why I put it a little bit separately, as it's by their newcomer status. So now I'm going to speak just of Title I and extended school year, which is the special ed. Our goal is to maintain the progress made in the previous year. And before Michelle Brady left, she was the special services director for the summer, before we welcomed our new director. And before Mike Horton went over to the middle school, he was the curriculum director. So our numbers for just that program were at 135 students for NES and NIS, which is pre-K to 5, 40 students for CPS and NHS. For a total of 175 students. And that number doesn't include the about 30 or 40 students with social work. So that was kind of a different looking program, so I didn't include it in those numbers. So those are all the staff involved. And like I said, we had half of a music teacher and a significant cut in teaching assistants. And because it was remote, we were really lucky to have a lot of our therapists stay on. A lot of our therapists leave for the summer, but because it was remote, we were able to keep them on, which kept a really high number. We only had 4 out of district staff for the whole summer, which is a really low number. And all 4 have been here for several summers. So we had the fortunate ability to give supplies, and I know the L program did too. Our program didn't have the funding for all of it, so we actually got a lot of books through an anonymous donor for the bookmobile, which was really great. And they donated all sorts. You can see these are all bags for students, and they're filled with books and whiteboards and pencils and anything that they would need for the summer. So it looks a little messy, but it's organized. So we're really excited to put those in students' hands, and they were materials that they could keep into the next school year. It's just a close-up of some of those materials. And thanks again to the donor of the bookmobile and Gillian Myers for helping facilitate that donation. So remote learning looks a little different than normal learning. So teachers used, basically they were trying to continue what was used in the spring, just to have some consistency. So if the students at that grade level were used to Google Classroom, they continued with that. If it was Padlet like the elementary school, they continued with that. And then they communicated with Remind or Dojo for getting in touch with students. And then they had all these other things. And the teachers were really great about getting in touch with the students and just making sure the students and parents knew how to access everything. They met in whole group, small group, and we're doing really a great job meeting all the needs of the students. Professional development, because they're most of our teachers, they were already up on the technology and everything, and they did have access to the professional development Padlet that the district put together in the spring. And all the classes met in the morning with a couple of exceptions. Some teachers met with the students in the afternoon because it worked out better. And these are some examples of our Rockstar Padlets that our teachers put together. You can see there's books, there's activities, there are charts and things like that. At the middle school, it looked a little bit different, but it was basically what they usually work on, just in a remote capacity. At the high school, we had a little bit switch up of teachers. Stacy Eswald, one of our high school teachers, she took on the ELA, and Paul Bucheri took on the math. So both areas of their expertise. We miss our normal summer high school person, but Stacy, really engaged the students in a really great book that they were really into, because that's her, her wheelhouse. So I think the students at all the levels had really great experiences. And these are just some attendance rates. You can see we actually had a lot of students who came 100%, and these rates were up from last year, attendance-wise. So we had 9% more students come 100% of the time, which was kind of great. And our less than 50% also went up 3%. So there are a lot of factors in there, and this did not include therapies or social work either. And here are some thoughts from the staff you have in your notes. These are just I asked people some things they might want to share with school committee or the public, and it's in your school committee packet, or anybody on TV who can speed read, because I'm going to the next slide.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm going to talk specifically now about the Title III EL summer program. So our goal was to give them a fun, safe way where our bilingual learners could grow their oral English skills by engaging in choice activities, reading, and oral discourse. These are some photos of whole group and small group work that happened. The biggest adaptations for remote for us, because all of our students were remote, we based that choice off of a parent survey that went out to the LPAC, and almost every single parent responded they wanted fully remote. So our biggest adaptations for that included things like I created choice boards that had different categories, including the core content areas, as well as music, because we shared Monique Lafreniere. Students were given devices and MiFi devices if they needed them. And like Andrea said, we had opportunities both before the program began and midway through the program for families to pick up supplies that included books, pencils, notebooks, whiteboards, markers, erasers, sharpeners, crayons, all those sort of like school supplies that teachers would normally have. We got funding for them to be able to supply them at home. Teachers, similar to the Title I and ESY programs, created Remind classes to communicate with families. That's how we sent out their schedules with the links for both whole group and small group videos. It included the teacher sending photos home to the parents to show the work the students had been doing that day. And we had a lot of families who actually sent back photos and videos of the work students were doing at home off of the choice boards, which was really awesome. And teachers used a lot of choice in our program. So they gave students options, which you can see in some of the photos of how to respond. For example, write or draw, act it out, orally tell it in the group. And then for their asynchronous work, the students had options on their choice boards that you'll see later of what to do independently. And we really focused this summer, which is a change from last summer, we focused only on their oral English. And last summer we had focused on their written and oral English, but because of the remote nature, we wanted to really zero in on one thing. And so we had teachers and students focus on that. So this is just like kind of like the who and how much slide. We had 71 bilingual students who attended, which, as Andrea said, was up from last year. It's about $21 per day per student. We also had all NPS staff. It included Taylor Murphy, who taught our kindergarten group, Courtney Collins, who did a combined first and second grade section, Nicole Ridge, who taught our 3rd through 5th grade newcomers, Ryan Millen, who taught our 3rd through 5th grade high Ls, and Joanna Townsend, who taught our 6th through 8th grade Ls. And it was actually really awesome because the 3 higher grade sections actually hadn't met those students before and were able to build relationships and get students engaged just over the course of 20 days of the summer school remote. And also worth mentioning, obviously, is Jocelyn Ramirez, who is awesome for our bilingual liaison, to connect with families that we hadn't heard from, to check in on students who we thought might be having a hard time at home or a hard time connecting. And then I was the coordinator, and of course, Kelly Cooney is the director of the department. This is our attendance rates, the same thing as Andrea. I noticed even though there is a lot of fluctuation for various reasons across the weeks. Overall, the attendance rates actually were up compared to last summer's attendance. Some of the times that the attendance rate was lower, we found out it was due to childcare issues, like a parent had to go back to work and the child was with a new babysitter who didn't have the login codes, or for some of the older kids, they started being responsible for watching the younger siblings. So it was just interesting to note how that impacted the attendance, but overall, the students who signed up for the program came more often than our in-person program last year. We had weekly PLCs, professional learning communities, where our whole staff remotely met with a targeted focus. Staff started by having 2 PD days at the end of June, right after school finished, to just go over expectations for the program and goals, as well as introduce them to the rubric, which you'll see later on in the slides. Our first week, we focused on using sentence stems, specifically for recounting or retelling something, or when a student has to give evidence in a class. In week 2, I asked the teachers, and brought from my experience teaching remotely in the spring, to bring like a student artifact or a piece of student work. And we all sort of looked at it and found like the strengths and thought of ideas of how we could implement it with students we see during the year or during the summer. In week 3, we brought something that we were sort of struggling with, whether it was like a technology tool or how to engage students in a certain way. And we as a team really brainstormed ways that we could attempt to connect with the students better. The last 2 weeks, week 4 and 5, were really focused on the progress reports we had to do, post data collection, and sort of end of the program wrap up. Also, like Andrea shared, we did a teacher post survey and asked them for quotes on what they thought was the most important part of remote teaching, what was the most helpful, and any just feedback that they had for us. And it was interesting to note that a lot of their takeaways were that students are, even the young ones, really concerned about being back in person in school. They miss the teachers and they miss their friends, and they want to be in person, but they're scared of getting their families sick. They asked a lot of questions about COVID. And the teachers shared that the most important thing for them was actually having those synchronous video groups, and sending home the materials was super key to getting students engaged. This was something that's actually stayed the same as last year. So Taylor Murphy and Courtney Collins both taught in summer school in person last year for the EL program. So they were sort of our experts in this. This is our oral rubric for students that we use to collect once in the beginning of the program and once towards the end for each student, just to sort of capture, like, is there growth? Where is the language growth? And I included a sample here of an actual student rubric a teacher shared with me that shows that growth just over 20 days. It was remarkable to me because most students maintained or improved their scores on this rubric. And that just speaks to how engaged the students were and how willing they were to try, as well as how amazing our team of teachers were at getting them to really stretch their English skills. And then the next slide is just the data that shows that pretty much every group of students had a fairly significant increase in their scores, particularly the older students, which when I reflected on it is likely because they had the most ability to take on the asynchronous independent learning tasks, whereas our younger students, we know that's a struggle for them. This is a sample of the progress report we sent home. It included attendance rates for the whole group and the small group classes, as well as their pre and post-test speaking scores. It also included a speaking related comment area where the teachers were able to choose from pre-made comments to sort of copy and paste based on the students' speaking abilities, as well as participation related comments, because we know that a student might be trying really hard, but with everything that's going on, it might not show a big growth. And these were translated into students' home languages as well to be sent home. So a big thank you to the translation team for that. And I just wanted to end with some examples of student work, both in groups and independently. So for our ELA part of the choice boards and our groups, students were reading texts that we got from Scholastic. They loved them a lot. They use them a lot, as well as online texts. And really we were focused on just like having them enjoy reading, building the field around various science topics, answering text-based questions, and having different ways to express their thinking. So whether it was orally or typing in the chat, or even in like a Google slide or a Jamboard. The math activities are really focused around students explaining their thinking or doing sort of agree and disagree with peers thinking and explaining why. Again, like you can see a lot of use of the materials here with the whiteboards and the small group and the independent work, but it was just fun to see them engaging with different parts of the choice board. Science each week had a different theme based on the different strands in the next generation science standards. And I just had to include pictures because I think it's super cool that you can have somebody who's 6 on a video call using his magnifying glass he got and sharing what he found outside, and also people using a Jamboard. And Nicole Ridge actually took her kids on a virtual field trip, which they loved and related back to the books they were reading. And then there's also a part of the activity board that included choice. So sometimes the teachers did it in small group, like a directed drawing, or the kindergarten group a lot did like a phonics scavenger hunt. So she would hold up a letter, they would say the sound, they'd have to go find something in their house or their room that started with that sound, as well as allowing students to sort of engage with like the social emotional piece of just sharing what's going on in their lives. So these are just choice board activity examples, and you can sort of see the layout. It was like pretty much 5 per each category. We had a fun one that was more of like coloring or a movement, a science one that went through either like going for a walk or observing something or doing some inquiry. Math, I tried to set it up so it hit each of the major standards within the grade, and then literacy as well. This is the 3rd through 5th grade example. You can see music is included on there, and Monique Lafreniere really helped me out. She had a whole list of music ideas that we could include here that kids could do at home. And then this is just the 6th through 8 example as well. So I made them into grade bands because obviously a kindergartner can't do the same thing that a 6th grader can do independently, but we wanted them to have similar categories so that teachers across the grade levels could collaborate in the PLC. And then last but not least, I had to include this one. Ryan Millen did this Jamboard with his 3rd through 5th grade L's about something that they strongly believed in based on a text they read. And I just thought that what the kids put in those like pink and blue sticky notes was super, super powerful. And I was just very impressed, like Andrea said, with how much the kids showed up, as well as how much our teachers put in and were able to connect with them over such a short period of time.
Great. Thank you very much, Samantha. Kelly, would you like to finish up with anything before we go to questions?
No, I think that they both did a wonderful job presenting. Of course, I just want to add that the choice boards and other materials were offered in the languages, home languages. We had them in Spanish and Portuguese so that families could help as well. And we found that having the paper books at home was really huge because the kids, you know, they miss paper. Now it's funny, computers used to be so exciting and now paper books are super exciting again. So it was just a really nice time. And, you know, we were so busy with the admin team, you know what we were busy doing. So it was great to have Andrea and Samantha in charge because they really did an amazing job. And, you know, we didn't have to worry about anything or assist, you know, they really did an amazing job running it. So thank you both.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for a great presentation. I'd like to open it up to the committee for questions or comments. Steve, I'm going to start with you first, if I may.
Yeah, I have no questions, but this is all indescribably awesome. I went through it all before the meeting, but there's nothing like hearing you folks talk about it and seeing it again. And I particularly enjoy the visuals. I mean, being able to put faces to the work you were doing with the kids, it was all just great. I thank you, I applaud you, and I've said enough.
Thank you, Steve. Jen Illa, would you like to comment or questions?
Thank you. I echo Steve's sentiments. It is so amazing to see all the work that is done over the summer with these students, and it's so impactful. You can see the excitement and the energy from both the staff and the students. And I am so grateful to you for giving up your time this summer to work on this. And I think this program is incredible and something we need to continue focusing on for our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Zona, I know you joined us. Would you have comments or questions? Zona, can you hear me? Are you muted, or maybe you got kicked off? Let me see. I don't see you. So I'm actually going to have my comments, which I agree with Steve. I mean, I think having the visuals and hearing you both present really does bring alive what we've already read. I have a couple of questions. What's the general length of time that the children were engaged with you on the screen?
I know that in our program, all the students were part of a whole group for 30 minutes a day, and then usually had another small group for 30 minutes. And then every other day would have music for 30 minutes. So somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half maximum per day. I also know that there were students who requested extra time with the teachers to work on something or ask for help with something, but it really was like an hour to an hour and a half usually.
Ours was very similar, and additional time was through the asynchronous learning. But especially for our youngest students, we were concerned with too much screen time, especially during the summer months, with the minimal parent support that was at home.
Yeah. It's interesting that your engagement is higher online than it is in person. And, you know, may have something to do with transportation or organizing, getting sometimes other children out of the house to get students to the program or not. I know that's sometimes a challenge. Do you do a check-in at the beginning with each student that there is an adult present? Because I'm assuming for the little ones, probably it would be difficult for them to connect, so you have to assume there's an adult there present helping them. But is there a procedure that you use where you can check in to see who's with them?
We didn't have a procedure for Title I or ESY. We did have a couple of students who were at the camps. We collaborated with ACKVENTURE. We had some students who logged on there, so that was a really great collaboration. But a lot of times it's older siblings that are helping, and sometimes there are students who are at like an aunt's house, and there are maybe a bunch of children there. So there was always somebody around, but oftentimes they were busy or, you know, watching other children. So they were present, but not necessarily supporting the learning in any way.
Yeah. Well, it's encouraging to see the growth. It's heartbreaking to read the comments. I think that's something that we are aware of, but to see it written down, coming out of their mouths of being fearful to come into the school or being fearful to bring a virus back home that's going to hurt a parent or a family member. I just think that we have to keep that in mind and make sure that we have support and we don't let that go out of our minds, because I think that I can't imagine what that's like for a young person already coming back to school and having some children have anxieties, but on top of this, we don't know the conversations going on in the home, and I just think that we need to be on top of it, which I know you all are. But personally, reading that, it was hard. But thank you both for your presentation. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your energy and passion. And we're lucky to have a stellar staff working with our students. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So let's move on to Mandy Vassal, who's going to go over the AP results at the Nantucket High School. Welcome, Mandy.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing me to present tonight. And I am going to screen share. Just pull this over here. And so can everyone see that all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Affirmative.
So, so it's a little different to share scores and information about students that I myself did not work with. So I did rely on the AP College Board. So my apologies right off that some of the slide information might look a little fuzzy. But I did reach out to our AP teachers and I did get some information from them. One of the things that I found really interesting was that we have 8 teachers that teach our AP exams, and there were 13 content areas that were tested for our AP exam season in the spring. We had 115 students who were tested and 206 exams that were administered, which I found to be fairly phenomenal, particularly this year with the closure and what have you. I know some schools at least across the state of Massachusetts, and the principals that I had spoken to did make the decision to allow the testing to be optional this year. So the fact that 206 exams were still administered for Nantucket was great. The slide that you're looking at right now does show the breakdown of the exams broken down in the score results. So students that received a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5. And then it showed the total number of exams. So I don't know how long you want me to leave each slide up so you can take a look. So this is just half of the number of exams that were administered. And then here's the other half of the exams. And a couple of things that I noticed just because of my experience in a couple of other schools, if you, so for instance, US history, you might look and say, you know, the number of exams like 38, English lit composition, a lot of exams there. That's pretty normal for most high schools, that those are areas that are pretty well, that do administer quite a few exams. To have 25 AP stats tests, I thought was really good. That's an area that some schools have pretty good attendance in that class, but not every school does. So I thought that the fact that you have 25 at Nantucket that took that back in the spring was really good. Then if we take a look at the breakdown by grade level, and so 12 at the 10th grade level, 53 at the 11th grade level, and 50 at the 12th grade level. So the 5-year report for students that scored at the 3+, meaning that they scored a 3, a 4, or a 5. Now, for those who don't know, a lot of colleges accept 3 as a score that students could receive college credit for that at their school. Not every school does that. And what generally the counselors will tell students is that whenever you take the AP classes and AP exams, and you start looking at colleges, you want to make sure that you check with the colleges that those schools will in fact accept those AP exams at the level of a 3 or a level of a 4. when for the previous schools that I've worked with, and I believe Nantucket originally started with Mass Insight and was a member of the Mass Insight collaboration. What they generally will say is that although it's great to get a score of a 3 or a 4 or a 5, what they really recommend is that students take the AP exams, because the main reason for, or not just the exams, but taking AP classes, is that it's the rigor of the class, and that really helps to get prepare them for college level classes. One of the things that I found interesting about this slide is that for the last 5 years, the percent of the students that have scored 3 or better has been fairly consistent, except for 2016, looked like there was a little bit of a dip, but it's been 72, 70, 69, 70. So it's been fairly consistent over the last few years. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. I jumped ahead there. So then this slide I thought was also interesting, was the percent total students, and the breakdown here is total AP students that took based on the number of exams taken, but also so the score of 3 or better for the total number of exams, but also total number just for the students. So you have 115 students this past year, but 206 exams. So of course, some students took multiple exams. And when I look at the schedules that we have coming up for this year, we have some students that are taking 2 AP classes. We have a handful of students that might be taking 3 AP classes. And again, if you take a look at the bottom row of the percentages of students that are scoring well is actually fairly consistent for Nantucket, which I think speaks well of our teachers. And then I just found this slide to be fairly interesting when you're looking at overall equity and excellence as far as our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders for taking exams, and the overall number of students taking exams and how they're faring as far as their, in the AP realm when they're scoring 3 or higher. But a couple of things that I wanted to point out, and some information that I did get from our AP teachers, is that this year was a little different, of course, with the closure in March, because in March, that was about March, April, so it was about 6 weeks before the exams actually took place. And so the teachers were telling me, so chemistry in particular, the chemistry teacher was saying that they had prepped 7 months, and then they found out that the AP board, college board, decided to take out 2 of the units that they'd been preparing for. So all of the work that the students had done, then they changed up the test. The other thing that they did with the AP test this year is that it went to an online test, because of the circumstances. Typical test for an AP exam is 3 to 3.5 hours. It was 45 minutes online this year. Some students, in one of the tests that was given, there were 20 in AP stats. No, I apologize. In the calculus test, there were 2 of the students that weren't even able to get connected, so they couldn't even take the test, and they didn't even get a score. And it was because it was in the online method. So, so a lot of the kids' exams were skewed because of what happened. I know at my previous school, we had students that were kicked out, and then they were able to go back and do like the makeup exam. But can you imagine what that maybe did to their psyche at that time, that they're all, they're ready to take the test, and then they get kicked out of the test. Now they have to go back into it. So I know that really did skew, the exam and the final scores for quite a few students. So when you look at the overall testing for students, I think that really did make a difference for students overall, and not just at Nantucket or any one school, but I think it was pretty, nationwide. One thing I did want to share, though, is our calculus teacher, Dr. Williams, who was also recognized as an AP teacher and received an Excellence Award, said that this is 4 years in a row that they've actually broken a record at Nantucket for their, they've had the most, and this year they had the most passing scores ever. So I thought that was awesome, and I thought that we should share that.
That is amazing. That's terrific. Thank you for mentioning that, Mandy. And I hope that you also support and enjoy the fact that we have open enrollment in these programs, so that it's really open for any student to sign up and enroll in an AP class.
I have to say that I was really glad to hear that, because I know that that's always been a struggle in other schools that I've been in. My philosophy is that if a student wants to give that a try, I think it's really important to encourage students to do that, because students grow, and sometimes students grow a lot from June to September, and I think it's really important to give them that chance. Sometimes they don't know what they can do until they've been given that chance to jump in and try it. And the motivation, the connection with the teacher, and sometimes they find out what they can do whenever they get put into the right situation. And I think it's really important to give those students that chance. And, I don't know, I just think it's important that they have that opportunity. And I was really happy to see that they do have that open enrollment. So I'm really pleased about that.
That's terrific. Yeah, me too. I apologize ahead of time because I didn't ask for this before your presentation. It is something that I do ask every time. So I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up. I don't expect you to know this now, but if you wouldn't mind being able to put an outline of statistics of the number of students who are on IEPs or 504s or students of color. So I like to sort of see just what the diversity is of this student cohort taking AP classes.
Do you want for the 2020 or for the upcoming year?
For last year, yeah, for the ones you've just presented, please. Oh, you just muted yourself, Mandy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I seem to be having a problem with that mute button tonight. I'll be glad to do that for you.
When you have time, there's no rush. It's just, I think it's a really important piece of information for us as a school committee to have. So
I'll be glad to. I did look to see if there was any more of a breakdown. When I saw the grade level breakdown, I thought that the College Board might have had a better breakdown, but I did not see that. But I know that I can get that out of our own student management. So they do have the student breakdown, so it'll be easy to pull that out.
That'd be terrific. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll offer comments and questions from the community, from our committee. Steve, would you like to go first?
You're making me first for everything tonight.
I am.
I do find this interesting, particularly because of the major league changes of deleting some of the material and shortening it drastically. It's draconian, and yet still 70% of our kids were 3 or better. And I think that's great. They adapted somehow to what was going on. I was very glad to see that. And I do also appreciate Pauline's question, because with the diversity we have in our student community, it's good to know. So I look forward to seeing those. Thank you for presenting this.
Madam Chair, if I might just say to Steve's comment, I would just like to say and give kudos to our AP teachers. I've been fortunate in the last few days to get to know some of them a little bit better. Since we have had teachers in the building, I think that 70%, Steve, goes right to their passion for their subject area and for working with their students. I think it's really important that they are able to make those connections, and then that's what really makes it work.
Yeah. Thank you, Mandy.
Agreed, and I'm glad you gave them the kudos for doing it too.
Yeah. Zona, do you have comments or questions for Mandy?
No, I just want to thank you, Mandy, for that information. And I totally agree with your last comment. It makes a difference when the teachers are really vested and engaging with their students in a subject matter when it's AP, especially, or tough, or, you know, a little bit more than the normal class. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Zona. Jen.
No questions, but thank you for your presentation, Mandy. And I will say the same thing. I'm a parent of a student that was in that situation of taking 2 AP tests after being remote for several months. And I can't stress enough how incredible the AP teachers were to make sure that they could do absolutely everything in their capabilities to prepare their students. And we had a glitch happen in our house, and my daughter's AP teacher drove over within 5 minutes to try to help us with the Chromebook issue. So I can't thank them enough for their dedication and working around the challenges that, you know, everybody was facing at the time and still working through. So thank you to you, Mandy, and thank you to all of the incredible teachers.
Yes, and Madam Chair, if I might just add to that, I did forget to say that one of the things that the AP teachers did tell me, that even through the school closure, they were still helping students and offering extra, study sessions. And so to Jen's point, I think that was awesome. One of the things that we found with the use of the Chromebooks is that it was a little bit more difficult to connect to the exams than it was if students had their own device. So it was a little more of a challenge taking that exam this year.
Thank you. Good point. Thank you, Mandy. Okay, moving on, I'd like to invite Tracy Roberts, who's the director of our community school, to share with us a presentation on her summer programming. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Pauline. Hello, everybody. All right. Nothing I have to do. Present. Thank you. All right, so I'm happy to say that summer is over. It was really busy for us. We had a lot going on at the community school. I'll start with our littles. Looking at summer boost enrollment, Andrea touched on this a bit, but we were really excited about summer boost this year to partner with the public school, having one teacher from the public school and one teacher from the community school and our interpreter involved as the family liaison. So that we did that, it just looked different as we were remote. And we had an interest of 13 participants in Boost this summer, but regular attendance of about 7. And what we actually ended up doing was going back to the Community Foundation, who so generously funded our program this summer, and asked, since we were not taking buses, if we could take the funding that was allocated for buses to enroll some of the summer boost students in our ACKVENTURE summer camp. So it was an amazing opportunity for these kids who have yet to attend a preschool program and are coming to kindergarten in the fall to learn to separate as they would in the traditional summer boost setting from their parents. And it was amazing to see children who were crying and really struggling to say goodbye on the first day, and by the end of the first week shouting bye to their family. And it was just really beautiful. So they were able, just like the summer school campers who attended this summer, to access their remote learning within their camp day, which is not something, obviously, that we've done in the past. Traditionally, students who attend summer school would leave summer school and walk to camp. after their summer program was over in the morning. So it was really fun for them to be able to be present and doing their work. And this information just breaks down our traditional enrollment. It's dependent on so many different factors, but this year our number was much lower. And yeah, we had a great summer boost program this summer and connected with the families at the very end of the summer, and they were able to see each other. They had a playground meetup with masks and could see the campus and everything, so it was great. Looking at camp specifically, you can see our numbers were down about half to what they usually are with day camp. And this is a bit of a more detailed look at the weeks within. Oops, I'm sorry. The weeks within, looking at, again, about half. And this was really, we were at 11 counselors. We're traditionally about 16 or 17 counselors for our program in the summer. And I think I shared with you previously that we were working out of the NIS third grade cluster. Then we were outside between NES and NIS in that outdoor space. We were on Backus Field and on the NIS playground. So we were really on school campus, school grounds, and the groups took some field trips to the Sustainable Garden, which was really great. And they were just really present. Traditionally, we are hopping on the bus multiple times a day. We're saying, okay, we're going here, we're going there. And so camp looked very different this summer. And we found some silver linings in all of that. We had great contact with parents. Pauline Cronin, who is in charge of our early childhood department, was sending weekly contact with families, asking how we can improve, how they were doing with all of this, how we can support them. They were giving really great feedback. And we had really great FaceTime with families as they were dropping off in the circle. We were able to check in with them. And I will say that I did not field one email from a family this summer because everything was done in person. And it was such a gift to be able to have conversations with families and work to grow and support families with their struggles or with their successes. And we utilized Remind, which was really great. It was the first time within our camp year that we used Remind, and it was really nice. But looking at our enrollment, as you can imagine, when Q1 numbers come out through Martin, our finances will look different just because our enrollment was really, about half. Oh, I hear little feet. My people are coming upstairs. I'll try to tell them to go away. We did cancel our sports camp. So our enrollment was at 0 for this summer in sports camp. And even looking at what was at Jetty's Tennis, we were not able to run tennis clinics this summer. I'm busy. And at the pool as well, we did not run our youth learn to swim program. So I'm in a meeting where you need to go. Yes, you can have snack. I'm so sorry. And so our numbers are at 0 for for our learn to swim this summer as well. And looking at our pool membership, there's a pretty detailed grid that goes back 3 years. At the pool this summer, we utilized a screening system. There was a staff of 4 people who were really present, screening swimmers and making sure that everyone was following the protocols. And families or members would sign up in the sign-up system online. So we noticed in a lot of our departments, we would shift to these online signups that happened within Driver's Ed as well. And at Jetty's Tennis, the online piece was huge. And it helped us go back and look at our numbers and see how many we're accessing on a weekly basis or over the course of the summer. But due to COVID, our numbers declined a lot within pool access. We had to limit the people on the pool deck and what we were able to offer there. So you'll see that in the numbers. We did see an increase in pool memberships. people knew that they could sign up for the times that were available. And so people were shifting to a 1 month membership as opposed to just a drop in for their swimming. And so when Jim pulled the numbers, he was able to see that 90% of the spaces that were accessible were utilized by swimmers, which was fantastic to see at the pool. We were not running recreational type swimming programs, just lap swim. So Hydro Fitness and Aquasize did not run. And our summer swim team numbers were down, but there was a steady flow of swimmers at the pool. Within community recreation, Blair manages the Delta fields, Nobody or Farm fields, and Jetty's tennis. So it worked in our favor that we weren't running sports camps, because that's also his world traditionally, and he would have been spread really thin. So his focus was in these areas. Tennis was different because you had to look at the guidelines and how to safely play tennis. So like, as I said before, the clinics did not run, but singles play. What happened was a lot of the, what would say the campers, the people who would access the clinics would ask, okay, well, the clinics aren't running, so what options do we have? So there were a lot of private lessons and group lessons that came out of that. So we actually, revenue-wise, were in a fairly good department at Jetty's Tennis this summer because we could supplement with something else. We had another option for people. It was very busy there. Also, during the summer, the management of that field space out at Delta Fields and Nobody, Blair was in constant communication with the users and making sure that everybody knew about the guidelines and the expectations of how to be utilizing those spaces properly. And one thing that I'm so proud of my team for, I think often we've said as a group, you need to step out of your silos. Our departments are all so different. They're doing very different things. And so it's hard sometimes to see how they relate to one another. And during this time, pardon my dog making snorting sounds. During this time, they could really see how they could support one another, and sharing guidelines and protocols and helping one another build was critical. And I'm so proud of the team for pulling together to do that. Let's see, what else? I'm not going to read through all the details. I'm hoping that you've all looked at the great things that were happening at the tennis courts and the fields within driver's education. We plugged through with 2 people running driver's ed this summer. We were allowed to move classroom instruction to a virtual platform, which was really great. And then this summer, Dan and Bo spent a lot of time in the car. They were also following the protocols that were put forward, making sure that everyone was safe and accessing the car. And they spent a lot more time in the car this summer than they have in past summers, playing a lot of catch up. I think one of the great pieces of being able to offer the class for students meant that they were ready by summertime to get in the car. I do have concerns about the car itself. We have one driver's ed vehicle, and we continue to get a lot of use out of that vehicle, but I think long-term we're going to have to think about what that looks like, because if something happens to that vehicle, we're in trouble. So those are here's just some information about, roughly 35 drivers completed their driving courses in their hours this summer. And the driving tests are typically offered a Friday over the course of the month, and they still have not they haven't opened that back up. So I think there are people who are going off island to take their driving tests. And I did want to add, I don't have a slide for what was going on within adult education this summer. The adult ed team was really helping to pull things together for everybody, helping to work on the protocols and making sure that there was communication between the staff at 56 Center Street and Remain as our landlords. Remain has been so supportive of us. They always are, but during this time specifically, making sure that everybody is safe we were running our test center this summer, a test center that supports many teachers in the district to take their MTEL so they don't have to travel off island. So in the month of July, there were 14 test takers, and in the month of August, there were 11, which is pretty great for people to be able to do that here. In terms of the takeaways, I said it before, and I'm really impressed with my team. I'm so proud and lucky to have them. We found ourselves short-staffed this summer in a number of ways, and people stepped up, and we actually had a great time doing it, but pulled together to make our programs really fun, and it was amazing to see. We continue to have the challenge before us of meeting the need within the community, but also knowing that we have to have a balanced budget. So, we want to run affordable programs and support, and, the community will say, please, can you provide this, or can you do this? And, trying to honor that, but also know that we have to hold to our budget. And so that's tricky. As I spoke to in a lot of the zeros in the columns where we did not have programming running, the lost revenue is a challenge for us at the community school, and being able to just keep our full-time staff afloat, we need that revenue to be able to keep us whole. And so that's something that, I'm looking at in partnership with the team and our business office manager. Are there options to get support for the community school? And, looking at the limited access to the public school as, students and teachers are returning to the buildings and the demands are being placed on the facilities teams. We're having to look at where we run our programs and what that looks like, and how often we can run them. So looking ahead this fall and at this year, we are in the process of trying to acquire funding so that we can run our Dance Works program outside of the walls of the school, since after school will be a challenge for us to access the facility. Looking at as the year progresses, are there more demands at the pool that will be put on the staff that are there, and the numbers that are, at the pool. So also looking at early childhood and adult ed programs, how we have to shift those, working with our CFCE grant and what their guidelines are in terms of in-person programming. And knowing that this year we don't have the ECC, what will that look like for us? And in terms of the adult community, what types of programs are they looking to access, whether it's in person or virtual? And is it equitable? Are we making sure that everyone has access to the programs that we're offering? As I spoke earlier in the driver's ed slide, just being really attentive to the demands that are being put in the driver's ed department and the vehicle. And lastly, looking at supporting students and the community, whether it's for childcare or engagement and connection during remote days of schooling this year. The community school really wants to be able to support that effort. Without a facility, we're making some connections and trying to figure that out, but that's kind of what lies ahead for the community school. And I did want to end on a slide that just gives major thanks to the people who supported us this year. The facilities and grounds departments were amazing at camp this summer. The kids were doing such great things. And Barry and his team were phenomenal, just, keeping us on our toes and making sure that, we were doing our part. And they helped us with the cleaning of the indoor spaces. And Joe and his team had the sprinklers on. About halfway through the summer, we had the idea of turning the sprinklers on, and it actually got really hot. So it was perfect. And the kids were out in their bathing suits running around, and it was really fun. A huge thanks to the Nantucket Education Trust, who provided a grant for ACKVENTURE to access the Sustainable Garden in partnership with Callan. And they also helped us to acquire some bikes so that the kids could have a bike riding week as part of their camp in the last week. And it was really, really fun. And again, thanks to the Community Foundation, who is willing to make that shift so that we could have some of the Summer Boost students attend our summer camp, and to the Nantucket Golf Club Foundation, who provides tuition assistance to families on island for childcare needs. And so families who are in need can apply with the community school and receive assistance when they are rolling in 6 or 7 weeks of camp. And so we're so grateful for their support. Families really benefit from that. So I think that is it.
Thank you, Tracy, very much. So Steve doesn't get a complex. I'll comment first, and then I'll go to Steve after that. First of all, Tracy, I think you get the presentation and the award for the cutest presentation. I don't know
Sorry.
who present and get kissed by their children. So that was adorable.
It was real life, Pauline.
I know. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I would just like to recognize you, Tracy, for not only a great presentation, but for what you did this summer, because you lost a staff member right at the beginning of camp. And instead of going into panic mode, you just picked everything up and you took it on yourself. So I know what's on your plate during the summer and also preparing for the fall. And you did it with style, and you did it with grace, and you did it with expertise. And I don't think anybody was none the wiser that you were a person short and that you were splitting yourself into 2 other positions. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And I know we all appreciate that. So community space, you're talking about your programs and going forward. Is it helpful to sort of do an outreach to community providers? I know we're already having conversations with some of our not-for-profits and the Boys and Girls Club for using space for the school day. I know the club is out after school, but would it be helpful to sort of do some brainstorming to see where there might be areas or space that you could run programs out of?
Well, so I've been doing that probably for the last month plus. And so we definitely have made traction. It's more now making sure that we acquire the funding to be able to be in the spaces that we found that will work for us. So, we're definitely making progress. I think we're in a really good place and we have some support. So it's just reaching out. I mean, the Community Foundation has their emergency fund, and I think we're a strong candidate to qualify for some support there. So that will be the next step. But thank you.
Okay. And it sounds like a donation of a new car would be perfect, wouldn't it, for you? For trying just putting it out there if anyone's got
I don't know
a new car.
If people know that falling under a municipality, you cannot lease a vehicle. So we have to buy a car in full.
Yeah, which changed over the years because we used to have that. So, all right. Well, thank you, Tracy, for everything that you're doing at the community school. It's a ton of work. I love the photographs that you added in your presentation. And even in spite of some of the programs not being able to run, I know that your staff took over and just did other activities and other responsibilities, which is kudos to them for doing that. So I'd like to now go to Steve, please. For questions.
And you're a tough act to follow. Tracy, your adaptation is amazing. I mean, considering how different things were, to be able to pull off as much as you folks, and I'm saying that in plural because this is directed to everybody who worked with you, is just amazing. And yeah, the photos at the end are good and bad for me as a former gardening fanatic. I love seeing those kids doing the gardening, and I loved hearing about the sprinklers too. So this is a good reason to have all of you presenting to us rather than just reading the materials. I really appreciate it, and I applaud everything that y'all pulled off. I don't know whether I should say this or not, but If whatever we can do to help with your budget, you should be asking us because it's a worthy cause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Zona, would you like to go next?
Not really, but I will.
Okay.
I want to also commend Tracy. I think you've done a wonderful job since you've taken over that post, and you've brought the community school full circle. We are, however, dealing with some unknowns and things that we don't have much control over. I'm concerned about the social distancing, and I think part of that comes from the pictures and people being so close together, even taking pictures. And, sometimes you can stand for longer than 15 minutes together trying to get pictures, but, maybe that wasn't the case. I'm sure you all did a diligent job in trying to maintain the social distancing as much as possible. There was that one kid that didn't have a mask on, so of course that was noticeable. My concern is, the bigger concern is the pool. And while I know it generated something for you and the program, it's a communal pool. And I'm going to tell you, I did travel a little bit a few weeks ago, and every hotel up and down the East Coast completely shut down their pools. That just wasn't an option. Not even in the South where it was 100 degrees and water could cool you off. So I would be concerned about that. And I'm not looking for you to address that tonight, Tracy, or justify it in any way. But it's just something for all of us, I think, to think about. The other part of this whole thing is that, given the information that we all just got today and are awaiting the next update, is that maybe we should think about the community school going an entirely new and uncharted territory and doing some virtual things. It's just something to think about. Look at the colleges that have had to do that. But I think you are a extremely creative person and smart and bright. I just want to put that in the back of your head for you and your team to kind of think about what are ways that we can change and be different, possibly 100% virtual, if that's at all possible, and revamp the program altogether. Just think about it. Put all those creative and young minds that you have exposure to work thinking about those kinds of ideas. There's nothing to say that we cannot brave brand new territory. We can take this lemon that we've been given, these extremely large lemon, and make different flavors of lemonade. Thank you.
Thank you, Zona. Jen, would you like to go next?
Thanks. I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you so much, Tracy, because I know that the programs you did run this summer were a huge success and they were an absolute necessity for some families. So I appreciate that you were able to do that and you did it well and you did it safely. And thank you. Zona does bring up some good points as, we still look at numbers moving forward day to day and some considerations, but I don't think it's just community school. I think it's the big picture as we see what's happening in our community. But thank you so much for the presentation. It was fantastic.
Thank you, Jen. Tim, comments, questions? You have to unmute, Tim. Maybe I can unmute you. No, I can't. You're still muted, Tim. I don't know if the host can go in and unmute Tim.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Great.
I came in late in the presentation because I was occupied at the day job. But what I heard certainly sounded like we made some attempts to get things semi-right and or semi-normal, and I think that's all we can expect in this particular time, because there isn't anything else that's working particularly well. But I think from the parts that I heard, that's very interesting, and kudos.
Thank you, Tim. Beth, would you like to have a comment on that?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I wanted to thank Tracy for her leadership. I think the community school is a wonderful part of the Nantucket Public Schools and the Nantucket community. And we rely on the community school for many offerings, whether it's adult education, whether it's early education. And the shift that Tracy had to make over the summer and prior during our closures was immense. And I am really very, very impressed with the way that she held things together and made sure that there were some creative solutions to programming and to bringing new ideas to the community school. Of course, some things had to go by the wayside a little bit, but it was wonderful to see camp running. It was such a pleasure to walk through and see children having a great time, and I really enjoyed seeing them get back to some of the most enjoyable things as children, like creating games and learning how to just enjoy being outside. It was a really special time, and I was very lucky to have been able to see a lot of that. But Tracy, your leadership is really important in this, and I just want to make sure that you know how important you are to us, and I am sure that you will take into account the suggestions that Mrs. Butler made, and that others have said about stretching and growing and learning how to create different programs, and I know that's happening. And you're always thinking about the community. Your team is wonderful, and I just wanted to thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Beth, for that. Okay, moving on to committee discussions and votes to be taken. We have a couple of policies that have come back or been revised, amended, that we are going to be looking at voting on tonight. The first one is the face masks. And Steve, did you have a comment that you wanted to put in for this before we put it?
Yeah, I did. I was surprised to see that the amended policy was only offering staff a single mask. It troubles me, and I think we should be offering them as needed. I know I spoke with you this afternoon, and I was not aware, or I should have been, that a single mask isn't even good for a full day. And if they're washable, they need to be washed every night. And I just think that our policy ought to indicate that staff may have masks whenever they request them. I mean, I hate to think back to the days when teachers had to buy supplies for their classes. And in this kind of extraordinary circumstance, I just think we need to be offering whatever masks they need.
Okay. May I ask Jen and Zona to comment on that as a policy committee?
As in the policy, we will provide one cloth mask, and then the school has a supply of disposable masks that they can get upon request. I think the policy is sufficient as it reads now. That's Zona Butler's input.
Jen?
Thank you. So no, it is one cloth mask that we're providing. I mean, typically everybody has their own masks and prefers to wear their own masks. But I think it's also very clear that if staff or students need more, that we are able to supply more masks. I don't think it's an issue.
I don't read it that way. I mean, the black and white says one cloth mask. It doesn't say anything about additional masks when needed. I mean, I'm glad that that is the underlying philosophy, but I think the policy needs to have that language as well.
You know, Steve, it's currently, I think, in the protocols is where that comes from. And because it was covered in the protocols, you know, policies are just a general guideline, and then you have your processes and procedures. Again, my comment stands as before.
I don't recall seeing in the protocols that staff had to be provided with masks.
Well, it also...
I know it has been said numerous times that PPE is available in the building, but if teachers are expected to be bringing their own masks every day, I don't know. It just feels a little bit insulting to me that we would expect our staff in this kind of an emergency to have as one of their priorities coming up with their own masks.
So in the policy, it does say that disposable face masks are provided for individuals who arrive without a mask, without a face covering. So if staff members show up and they want a mask, they show up without one and they'll get a mask.
Well, I thought that was in the student section rather than the grown-up section.
I wonder if we strike the word one and just say the district will supply reusable cloth face masks for each staff member as needed. Would we feel comfortable with that?
I would even go so far as to say you could make it upon request. If people prefer their own masks, that's fine. But if they request masks, it ought to be clear that they'll be available.
From what I understand, masks are limited in their use. I think after 4 hours, or if they get damp, they are really not effective. So I think it's likely that teachers are going to need to change masks and students will need to change masks during the day. But I think if we could agree to just strike the one and use the as needed, unless we are, Beth, would you like to comment on this or? Yep.
There we go. I muted myself. Every school is supplying a cloth face mask, and I do agree with Mrs. Iller and others that that people do want to wear their own masks. Of course, we have disposable face masks available for any teacher who needs one, and we will never turn a person away or not give them masks. What we are hoping is that people will also bring and use what they're comfortable with. And that is the whole reason behind offering a face mask, but saying that we also can have disposable masks available. So I believe that that is covered by policies and procedures, and that we can move on with the policy as it stands.
Okay, not hearing any other comments or seeing any other comments, would somebody like to make a motion to accept the revised EBCFA face masks policy?
Well, I don't think we've resolved whether we're going to either use my wording or yours or nobody's. And I mean, I'm glad to hear that the masks will be available. What is so difficult about changing a couple of words to make it clear in the policy? I just don't understand the difficulty.
Well, Steve, you do know that you knew that we were meeting and you've had this policy that we worked on to revise. So getting the feedback, and we said this at the last meeting, please share your feedback, which you did. You've seen the revised version. If you could have done that ahead of time, so we could have had a further discussion as a policy subcommittee, so we could present it tonight and have it accepted. This is the second time this has been up for vote.
and it's pretty important.
There's no reason it can't be accepted as amended.
Except for none of us feel like it needs to be amended. I think I'm going to make a motion. Let's just get the vote and then we can discuss it further. Isn't that how we do it?
Yep, we can make a motion, have it seconded, and then we can have a continued discussion, correct?
So I'm making the motion. Zona Butler.
Jen Eller seconds.
Okay. So further discussion on this.
Sometimes here's my comment on that. Sometimes a policy doesn't go into the deep downs of it. You've heard the superintendent speak that she's never going to turn anybody away. But the school has expenses that it has to incur, and face masks aren't cheap. I'll tell you, I work in an organization. It's way bigger than the school is, and we were provided the first go around. We were provided one mask, and they were handmade masks. And matter of fact, it was too small for my face, but I'm just giving you an example. They provided us with possibly a total of 3 cloth masks since this whole thing started. And it's not a request, it's just, this is what we give you and we've been living with it. But they also supplied us with an unlimited supply of disposable masks. And so that's how we've been going. So I think the idea is to get a mask policy in place. How it's disseminated, how many, when, where, that can be in procedures and that can be an understanding. I don't think that you can worry about the school denying someone a mask during COVID-19. That's my take on it, is that it doesn't warrant this excess scrutiny. We know what's important here. We've thought about it, but we're also trying to put something in place that doesn't break the school in its whole budget thing. Is that, masks they were pretty cheap at first, and then they're getting more expensive as the time goes on because people need them and people know they need them, and that's where the money's at. So again, that's my input.
Okay, thank you, Zona.
If I may, Madam Chairman, I was ready and prepared to let this go until I heard it being discussed as a budget issue. If we're talking about being so cheap that we have to count on our teachers to come up with this stuff, that's like when teachers have to buy materials for their classes. This cannot be a budget issue. So I'm going to make a motion to amend, which I believe is the proper procedure, to amend by removing, what did you say, the one word, Pauline, single mask?
Yes, can I just ask you for a minute, Steve, to hold on making the amendment, because I see Martin's hands up, and I'd like to hear from Martin before we get to amendment or the vote. So Martin, could you say your words, please?
Good evening, through the chair. I don't think this is a budget issue, Steve. I just responding. This is a availability issue, I think, at a certain point, because everybody's ordering them. We have the funds. I've said numerous times that we've designated specific funding to buying PPE and have this purchase. So I don't, just to answer that part of the question that relates to the budget, I don't think it is a budget issue. But Diane can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're seeing, as it's with everything right now, we're seeing delays in orders and shipments. Everybody's trying to order the same products across the country. So that's my take on it. But I think as far as budgets go, no, we would not expect teachers to be purchasing their disposable masks.
Yeah, I think that's important. I don't believe that our district would be denying our teachers masks. Diane, I see your hand up. Please.
I just wanted to comment that in my reopening protocols, there's a list of available supplies. Every school has 12,000 masks to open first day. That is more than enough to hand out masks to everyone, and we have thousands more on order. I honestly don't think it's going to be an issue of we don't have them on hand to give to anyone that asks. that was the whole point of having all of this, this inventory in supply.
Thank you,
Diane,
Diane.
is that cloth or disposable?
No, there's disposable masks. I know each school ordered cloth masks for their staff, and so we went obviously with disposables. We have to provide them for the buses, for the nurses, and for each school. And we have different types of masks. We have the regular disposable masks, and we have the clear masks for some of the special needs students. I mean, we've ordered anything anyone has asked. This isn't going to be an issue of we're not going to give them out.
Well, I want to clarify, everyone, and Steve, you correct me if I'm wrong. His concern is cloth masks. Okay, and Martin, did you hear that? His concern is cloth masks. Am I right, Steve?
I don't think so.
That's what the change is about. It's about cloth masks.
Policy doesn't distinguish, does it? So are you saying that you would interpret the policy to be a single cloth mask, but however many disposable masks are required?
Again, the policy only addressed cloth masks. And then I told you protocols and procedures go into the depth. What happens after that? What if you dig that deeper? What happens after that? And there are an unlimited supply at this moment of disposable masks. So, in that they can get what they want. Beth said that. I've said that. When I said budget issue, I'm talking about cloth masks. I'm talking about cloth masks and the availability of them, and they have to be made, and there's a shortage, and people are charging more for it. So you're the one that interpreted that as a budget issue.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a vote. We've got a motion on the table to accept the policy as is, and for clarification, it is the change that has been coming question is that the district will supply a reusable cloth face mask for each staff member, but disposable face masks for individuals who arrive at the building, which could be teachers or anybody visiting without a mask or who requires a mask will be provided one. Hearing, I think, from Diane and Martin was helpful. So I would like to put this to a vote. And then if it doesn't pass, we'll have further discussion, but I'd like to.
I'll withdraw my motion to amend, which allows you to get to that. And it's all on YouTube forever and ever. So if the issue comes up, it can be clarified there.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, I'm going to ask Tim Lepre for a vote on the motion, please. You're muted, Tim.
Hey, Duncan.
Oh, there you are. Yep, you're unmuted now.
Aye.
Thank you. Janilla? Janilla? I think you just froze. Zona Butler?
Aye.
Thank you. Janilla?
Aye.
Thank you. Steve Sotovic?
I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. Pauline Proch, aye. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the vote, I'd like a motion to approve the amended ACAB, which is the harassment policy. May I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim Lepre. May I have a second?
I second.
Jen Eller.
Thank you. Steve, second.
I would just like to ask one question. Did this come in bulk from Mass or the state, or what's the source of this document?
This document was before called the sexual harassment policy. We sent them both out to you so you can see what the old one was. And this new one is a combination of the old one and what they released as a new one to include all types of harassment, Steve. So it came.
No, I got you. But the they is Mask or the state or who?
Mask, MASC.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Great. Do we have a motion out? May I have your votes, please? Tim Lepre?
Aye.
Thank you. Steve Sotovic?
Aye.
Janilla?
Aye.
Zona Butler?
Aye.
Thank you. And Pauline Proch, aye. Thank you. So may I have a motion to approve the amended JLCB, which is the policy on immunization of students?
Move approval.
Thank you, Tim Lepre. May I have a second?
I'll second it, and then I have a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for seconding. And yes, comments?
It was the flu business was added at the end. Do I recall correctly that the state mandate is that all students, I suppose, and teachers, staff, get a flu shot by the end of this calendar year?
If I may, through the chair, the regulation is by December 31st, 2020, all students will be vaccinated.
So we can't tell the staff to do it, huh?
No.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Looking for a vote. Tim Lepre?
Aye.
Thank you. Janilla?
Aye.
Thank you. Zona Butler?
Aye.
Thank you. And Steve Sotovic?
Aye.
Thank you. Pauline Proch, aye. Moving on to the student activity accounts, may I have a motion to accept the class of 2024 Nantucket High School moved from CPS?
So moved. Janilla.
Thank you, Janilla. May I have a second? I'm looking for a second.
Zona Butler, second.
Thank you, Zona. Steve Sotovic, may I have your vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we wait? Because Logan had something she wanted to say.
Okay. Yes. Hi, Logan.
I mean,
If you, Pauline, can just read through each one and then they can do it as one vote and a roll call.
Oh, okay. So I can do all of the students together?
Yeah.
Student accounts. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, scratch that motion I just had, and I'd like to have a motion, please, to accept the class of 2024 Nantucket High School moved from CPS. Class of 2027 Cyrus Pierce Middle School moved from NIS. Nantucket Intermediate School moved from NES. And Nantucket Elementary School new pre-K class. May I have a motion to accept the...
So moved.
Thank you, Steve Sotovic. May I have a second?
Second.
Zona Butler, second.
Thank you for so many seconds. Tim Lepre. Zona, may I have your vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you, Jen Illa.
Aye.
Thank you, Tim Lepre.
Aye.
Steve Sotovic.
Aye.
Pauline Proch, aye. Thank you, everybody. I would like a move approval, please, for the donation from Justin's Commission for Yearbooks to CPS for $849.22.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Steve Sotovic. Tim Lepre, second. Zona, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Jen Illa.
Aye.
Tim Lepre.
Aye.
Steve Sotovic.
Aye.
And Pauline Proch, aye. Thank you. May I have a vote approval for the minutes of August 26, 2020?
Zona Butler, so moved.
Thank you, Zona. May I have a second?
Second.
Second on Tim Lepre. Thank you. Steve Sotovic, may I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Jen Illa.
Aye.
Zona Butler.
Aye.
Thank you. Tim Lepre.
Aye.
Thank you, Pauline Proch, aye. And I'd like a motion, please, to accept the transfers and invoices as presented.
So moved, Zona Butler.
Thank you, Zona. May I have a second? Thank you, Tim Lepre. Steve Sotovic, may I have your vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you. Jen Illa.
Aye.
Thank you. Zona Butler.
Aye.
Thank you, Tim Lepre.
Aye.
Thank you, Pauline Proch, aye. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to now go to Dr. Beth Hallett for her superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to start by introducing to you Matt King, who is my new superintendent induction program coach, and he will be sharing a little bit about the program and about what we've been doing.
Great. Welcome, Matt.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I'm Matt King. I am a coach in the new superintendent induction program. Program's been around for, this is our 11th year. I've been a coach for 5 years. Before I was a coach, I was a superintendent for 28 years. If I do some math, it was about 900 school committee meetings that I've attended. That's a little bit hard for me to comprehend, but that's a fact. And so I started my career all in Massachusetts. I was 10 years in Carlisle. Then I went to Lincoln Sudbury Regional High School. I spent 7 years, and then to Wellesley, where I spent 11 years. It's really a great privilege for me at this point in my life and career to be working with new superintendents. I work with, this year I'll be working with 5 first and second year superintendents, and then I also have a group of third year. The new superintendent, this induction program is, we have, there are about 25 superintendents in it this year. We are anywhere from 20 to 40 each year. And just to explain the components of the program, there's one-to-one coaching, which takes place in the first and second year. And there are content days where there are about 8 of those a year where we have gotten together face-to-face, but now obviously everything is Zoom. And in the third year, there is no longer one-on-one coaching, but it continues to be a few content days as well as a group coaching that meets. So the way that we are working under COVID is I have a one-on-one session with Beth once a week, and we also have a group meeting once a week with first and second year superintendents that I work with. So that's 5 people. The pillars of the program begin in the first year. There's, as you know about this, is the entry process. So we move from the entry plan to a report on entry findings, and over the second and third year, the development of a strategy for district improvement, which some people call a strategic plan. That has been the plan up until COVID. I have to say that as we all are in really just completely new territory, our first priority right now is supporting the new superintendents during this unprecedented period. I used to say to school committees when I would meet them like this that in my 28 years, I pretty much dealt with everything. But in all honesty, what I've said to Beth and her colleagues is that none of us have really dealt with the challenges that she and her colleagues are dealing with right now. And it's very, very, very complex, and being new to a district makes it even more challenging. So that's our priority is helping them think through what the challenges are that they face. Schools are all about relationships and values and making connections within the community and within the schools. And that's really what we're about. And, we just look forward to the time where we're no longer Zooming and we're able to meet face to face. So with that, I'd just like to open it up if you have any questions for me about the program or anything else.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Steve, do you have comments or questions?
Actually, no. Is Beth going to be presenting the documents tonight?
She is, yes.
I'll meet that.
Okay. Tim, do you have any questions or comments for Matt? You are already unmuted.
What topics do you cover?
Well, we cover, there's in the one-on-one coaching, we cover topics that Beth brings up to me. Very often they're around personnel issues. They're around curriculum, instructional issues, management issues, really the whole range. Working with school committees sometimes is an issue. It really depends. It's really all contextual based on the individual superintendent's experience. Then there's also the content of the curriculum that we have. So there it gets more technical about the entry process and developing a strategy for district improvement. And there's a highly detailed material that we go through about how to develop that strategy. You'll be seeing more about that through Beth when she presents to you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Zona, do you have comments?
I don't have any questions, just a comment. Thank you so much for being a support to Dr. Hallett. She does have it tough, I think, tougher than any superintendent coming in, dealing with what we're dealing with these days, and being able to sound off someone who understands, who has been there, type thing, I'm sure is a comfort to her in many aspects. So thank you again on behalf of the school district.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Zona. I believe Jen Ella had to leave the meeting, although I still see her name there, but I don't believe you're there. So I will just comment and say, Matt, thank you. I'm really glad that this program exists. And I have to say, I'm really glad this program exists, especially in the world that we're facing today. I think it's difficult to be opening schools, whether you've been a superintendent for 25, 30 years, or this is your first year, but I cannot imagine all of what's on new superintendents' plates and being new to communities. So I continue to be impressed with what Beth is already doing, with the grace that she's doing it with, but I am glad that she's got you in her corner as well to help her navigate through this year and next. So that's great. Okay, so Jen did leave the meeting. So Beth, I'd like you to move forward with your presentation.
Absolutely. Before I do that, I want to thank Matt myself, because he has been invaluable to me as a sounding board, as someone to remind me that no one has done this before, that there isn't a cheat sheet, that we are all learning and we're all helping each other. And it has been invaluable working with him, also working with other superintendents who are in the same boat as I am, and having that weekly connection to him and to them. And certainly I am able to see where this entry process is going. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, particularly in the entry plan, which I can present to you. If you'd like to actually see the document, I can share my screen. So through the chair, I'd like to know if that is something the committee would like me to do. I can pull it up.
No, I think we all have it. We have it in our packet. So we're fine. Thank you, Beth.
Sure. So just to give a little introduction, the superintendent entry plan is really an opportunity for any new superintendent to really kind of assess with the educational community where things are and where they need to go forward. This is such a unique year in that what we would normally be looking at with data from MCAS, with a lot of specifics to other areas, curriculum areas, looking at equity and access. A lot of this is certainly on the plate, but pushed a little bit to the side with regard to COVID. So definitely this is an interesting time. But as I go through the entry process, it is really important that I have an opportunity to remind people and ask people more about what they remember pre-COVID in some case, because I think that is important. Yes, COVID is shaping our district, but I do want to know where things were prior, so that I can get a feel for where we could potentially go either through COVID and with COVID, but also afterwards. So there are 3 phases to my plan. The first phase is listening, learning, observing, and reviewing. So that is happening, and that has been happening, luckily, really over the course of last year, as my new position of deputy superintendent came about. And I consider this, though, to be a different year of listening, learning, observing, and reviewing. It's different because I am now in the superintendent role. So basically, the idea is that I will be meeting with a variety of stakeholders. Certainly, school committee members, you know that I am working on meeting with you one-on-one to hear some specific things about your entry yourselves into your roles in school as school committee members, and where you think the successes and challenges lie within the district pre-COVID, but also perhaps where we need to think ahead post-COVID as well. I certainly want to do the same thing with our district leadership team members, with our athletic director, with the town officials, with community leaders. So these individual meetings will occur between now and November. Small group meetings will also happen. I'd like to have discussions with school councils, with our special needs advisory, English learner parent advisory, Friends of Nantucket, and a variety of other smaller groups, building supervisors for facilities, student leaders. They have a very important voice that I want to make sure they know I'm hearing, particularly where we were, where we want to go. And of course, the Nantucket Teachers Association as well, to make sure that, that they are also part of this entry plan. Obviously, large group meetings as I can, mostly on Zoom, I would assume, but I can certainly hold forums to get some information as well. So that is really where I see the importance of the plan coming in. Obviously, observations will be very important as I do regular walkthroughs. I conduct classroom visits as I can in the fall, of course, as safety permits, attending athletic events, activities, other events, of course, as safety permits. And also doing a full review of really key data points across the district. So a lot of this is what is currently in place, but I'll be looking in depth at the district improvement plan again. And obviously that is something that is a part of this entry plan and really a part of this year as we go forward and looking how there may need to be some shifts. School improvement plans from the past, some things to consider going forward, district report card, school handbooks, really a variety of the documents that are available to me to be able to understand better where the district is positioned. And again, this being such a unique year, it's going to be interesting because we don't have some of the documentation that we have had in the past, such as MCAS reports. But we will be looking at what we do have, and we will be, and I will be looking particularly at those records so that I can get a better idea of where we need to go. Obviously, we will keep in mind all of the COVID-19 documents that we have been building, that I've been part of, and that will be part of the entry findings as well. In phase 2, this is really a calibration of the data. So this is basically analysis, looking at the information that I've collected from interviews, from observations, from looking at document and data review, and coming together and kind of putting together some initial findings and then sharing that with the district leadership team, school leadership teams, and others to provide feedback. And then eventually in phase 3, I will be presenting key findings and making sure that the school committee is aware of where I have all of my research has brought me to with regard to some targeted goals and an action plan. We do have a new district improvement plan that was begun last year, and I would like to use that as a foundation moving forward and see how my findings might align or also need to adjust the district improvement plan as we go forward. So I feel that all of this can really afford me a solid foundational entry as the leader of this district. And something that I've been trying to share and I did share with folks in my opening day message, was I have 3 very important core values that are really what makes me move forward in my history as an educator and my future as an educator and as a leader. And I'd like to share these with you again. The first one is that students always come first. Every decision that is made in the district and for myself must always keep our students at the center, and every student deserves the opportunity to achieve to his or her full potential. The second is a shared responsibility. I feel that every employee in the Nantucket Public Schools, no matter what the role, is responsible for the success of our students. So I think that's an important one, and I want people to feel that, like myself, I feel that it is a responsibility that each of us has to be part of that success. And finally, collaboration. In order for us to achieve success as a school district, we as individuals must actively work together and enhance our own strengths and address our challenges through collaborative practice and a culture of care and support for all. So these are the 3 core values that I want to make sure people know, and that it really is the underlying current of my career and my life as an educator. So this is my entry plan, and I am looking forward to moving forward now that things are a little bit more stable. I'm careful to say that, but I'm looking forward to beginning some of those entry process activities. I am happy to entertain any questions, or I can move on also to superintendent goals. I will let the chair direct me as that.
I think we'll have you go straight on to your goals, please, Beth.
Sure. So I think that you will see that the goals align very much with the entry plan. As a new superintendent, some of you will know that there were a new superintendent evaluation system came up in August of 2019. And with this new evaluation system was some guidance with regard to new superintendents like myself, and really what the goals are kind of prescribed to be, especially for a new superintendent. So I followed, and also with Matt's suggestion, I followed the guidance with these goals to keep myself to 3 different goals that are really part of the entry process. So the first goal that I'm presenting to you is that by the end of May, I will have successfully completed a first-year entry plan to the role of superintendent. And this will obviously encompass all of what I had just presented to you with the benchmarks and the key actions about collecting information, interviewing observations, presenting key findings to school committee and also to the community, and then realigning the district improvement goals to make sure that we are in place, and I'm headed in the right direction to lead this district to success. The second goal is maintaining momentum during this transition. Obviously, one of the most challenging things is moving the district forward successfully while we implement a newly designed hybrid model of learning, and as that is outlined in the new comprehensive return to school plan that you had heard us present to you in August. And we know that I know that there are a lot of challenges, and I'll be looking for seeking solutions as we move through with the global pandemic and all of the things that it will bring. So clearly, we'll be looking carefully I will be looking with the district leadership team at a year 2 action plan for our district improvement plan, and that will be an important part of the next few weeks and months. Obviously, updates of reports and anything else around hybrid learning, around this model, about curriculum and instruction, anything and all things related to safety and health protocols, that will be very important as we move forward with educating our youth and our children, even in the time of COVID. And I think that will be very important. and clearly I will be as visible and as accessible as I can be to all staff, students, families, and the greater community, so that they know how important this is to me to be able to move our district forward successfully under any circumstances that we're dealing with. And the final goal is to complete my first year of the induction program. So as you had heard from Matt, there are sessions that we do, 8 days of content sessions. These are different, and I know that the NSIP program directors and organizers have had to pivot themselves and put things in place that way to make sure that we can meet on Zoom, so to speak. Obviously, there are assignments to complete, activities throughout the year, and I will continue to engage fully with Matt in our regular every week coaching sessions, and also group coaching sessions, and that's really an important part of the induction program. So I present to you these goals. They are draft, and I'm happy to take any questions here if you would like.
Thank you very much, Beth. Tim, would you like to go first this chat and give Steve a break? You're muted. I think we're going to keep you unmuted. You're still muted, Tim. Can I unmute you?
Sure.
Oh, no, there you go. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
No questions.
No questions. Okay. After all that, thank you. Steve.
No, I'm good. I look forward to the progress reports, Beth. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I know that Zona got knocked off, but she's going to try off the Zoom call, and she's going to try and call in. And I don't see her in at the moment. So if she does come back in and she has questions, we'll go back to that. But I don't have questions either. It was a very thorough entry plan. I know you've been working or trying to work on that for a while, but other things kept getting in the way. Don't know what you've been doing. And having gone through the training at our mask program, I was aware of the format of the superintendent's goals, and I think that makes absolute sense for this year. So thank you. Why don't you continue?
Sure. So let me just bring to the forefront the enrollment and some enrollment projections. Currently, we are looking at enrollment at this moment that stands at, and you did receive the chart in your documents. The district total at this moment is 1,681, and that is very close and even with where we were at the end of the year. So we have not seen this a mass of enrollment that there has been a projection about and other things. We are I think our largest class, as you can see from this. When I say largest class, our largest enrollment class is really kindergarten. We knew that coming from pre-K last year. We have 115 kindergartners, and that accounts for about a third of the entire enrollment. We have, for our entire enrollment, we have about 238 students as part of new registrants. And again, my mistake, not 1/3, but 2/3 are kindergarten. And so large class, but we knew that. We knew that was coming. Anticipated enrollment, we are looking at possibly adding 20 students. So we may come up to 1,700. But this is a real moving target. And this is because of what is happening on the island with regard to COVID and with regard to people making decisions quite last minute and potentially enrolling and then withdrawing. So we're definitely seeing some last minute changes. People have been asking often about seasonal families, and currently we have 19 enrolled that are planning to stay and enroll their children in the Nantucket Public Schools. So it is much less than what people have heard, and certainly we are happy to have any students, seasonal or not, enroll and be part of our schools, but we would appreciate knowing as soon as possible about final decisions. And I know how hard that is in the changing landscape of COVID. And so that's where we are with enrollment. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's where we stand.
Great. Steve, do you have questions, comments?
No, actually, Pauline, as difficult as it is for me to admit it, I
know what you're going to say.
Part of the spreadsheet before I spoke with you earlier today, so it's cool.
Okay. Tim, comments, questions? You're still muted, Tim. Tim, do you have any comments? You could just shake your head yes or, oh, there you go. You're unmuted now.
Nothing.
Okay. All right. And no comments for me. I think hopefully that, word is out that if people are planning to enroll their students, that they do it sooner than later, because obviously things are changing, but it's very much, when I did a walkthrough of the classrooms, it is literally down to how many students are in a class or how many can we fit in a class per teacher, and it is that close. So I really think it's really important. We'd rather not have any surprises the first day of school with, excessive enrollment. So hopefully people can plan ahead. Thank you, Beth. I know there's another update you would like to give us now, right?
Yes. There has been a lot of change within our community in the last 24 hours with regard to COVID-19 and disease activity on the island. So I wanted to address that because it is something that we will need to make a very important change. So I'm going to read a statement which some of you who are members of the school community or parents may have been getting a phone call during the school committee meeting, because a message has been sent out to parents and to staff about a change that we will be needing to make. So I'm going to read the statement to you, and you'll see where we're going to head with that. So. After discussion with the Town of Nantucket's Department of Public Health Director, Mr. Santamaria, regarding 7 new positive cases of COVID-19 in the community and the possibility for additional cases in the coming days due to community spread, we have decided that out of an abundance of caution, we will be shifting from a hybrid model with in-person learning to a hybrid model with 100% remote learning for 2 full weeks, starting on September 16th, the first day of school, and ending on September 30th. We have a tentative return to hybrid in-person learning for Thursday, October 1st. But of course, this will depend on the health metrics in the community and the recommendation of the Department of Public Health. Please understand that this is not a lockdown or a shutdown, but merely an important method to slow the rate of transmission in the community. The first day of school will still be September 16th for all students, and children should expect to connect remotely with their teachers by following the following the schedules provided to them from their schools. All cohorts A, B, C, and D will remain the same. No changes will occur. Teachers and teaching assistants are still encouraged to continue professional development days between September 11th and 15th, and to teach remotely from their classroom between September 16th and 30th in their buildings, but will be given the option to work remotely from home for any of those days. So any additional information will be provided in the coming days through email, text, and voicemail, and we will be updating people as quickly as we can with any information that will help in understanding this shift. I will be honest, while this is not exactly how I had hoped, and I believe that the leadership team and others had hoped to begin the school year, we had an excellent plan. We have an excellent plan to start. We will be ready. we will be ready to welcome our students on September 16th, whether it is virtually or in person. We know it won't be in person. And we will meet them and get to know them and build relationships with them as best we can in a remote environment until we are able to come back in person. And I do hope that with very careful monitoring of the health metrics here in the community and a good information coming out from the Department of Public Health and Nantucket Cottage Hospital, we will stop any sort of community spread that may be happening, and we will make sure that we can go back to school only when it is safe for all to come back. So I thank my leadership team for a lot of a last minute pivoting. I think we have an excellent curricular model in place that will easily allow us to move from remote to hybrid. And I thank them for all of the work that they have been doing. I thank Mrs. O'Connor for her assistance in communications. It has been a tough day and a couple of days in knowing, but I'm very confident that we can still move forward and still have an excellent educational plan for our students. And we look forward to welcoming them in person, maybe as soon as October 1st. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth, and I really appreciate you getting this information out as quickly as you could tonight. I know it takes time to record and get everything set up in the Connect Ed, and this is just information that you just got today. So I appreciate you turning that around and making sure you've communicated with your team first and then to the public. So, you know, we've known all along that this can change quickly, and it's proving to be the case. So hopefully once summer activities slow down, then we'll be able to go back to how we've been for many months. But thank you, and thank you for your leadership on that. Any comments or questions? Tim, do you have any comments?
Expected. And we will just have to see what the extent of the community spread is.
Yeah. Steve.
Yeah, I certainly support the decision. And just as an update, it was 7 new cases yesterday, 7 more new cases today, and the number of tests pending is twice what it was yesterday. So it sounds like, I don't know whether I hope that's because of the tracing that people are doing and encouraging people to come in and get tested. But the decision made on the basis of the first 7 has certainly been confirmed by the second 7. So.
Thank you, Steve. Zona, were you able to join us, and can you unmute?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Beth. I don't have any questions. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, does anybody, if you could just raise your hand if you've got any reports to do on your subcommittee work. I know Jen has left the meeting on safety and security, but scholarships, acknowledgements, any subcommittee work? Seeing and hearing none. We don't have our student council representative, so I will move on. I'm looking forward to seeing who that's going to be. You know, we have to get school back in session, but that would be great. And then we've got for our agenda the 24th of September. Is that going back to being a Tuesday? Let me just see. I'm hoping that we'll go back to Tuesdays. No?
Not yet. I believe we're still on a Thursday for the 24th.
Okay. That would, well, I don't know how the rest of the committee feels. I can put out an email, but it would be great if we could eventually get back to Tuesdays.
Madam Chair, can I just make a shout out?
Of course you may, sir.
Veritas is active online, if you're not aware, and they have a sign-up process where they'll update you by email whenever they have something new to say. So kudos to them and welcome to the 21st century.
It's great. It's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments before we adjourn? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, may I ask for a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Steve. Thank you, Tim. Second, Zona?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Steve.
Aye.
Thank you, Tim.
Aye.
And Pauline, aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all of our viewers for watching us tonight. And